Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to this thing that I do called Thor's Entertainment. I am Thor, and today I am completing my playthrough of Mortal Kombat 1. Today I find myself only 2 chapters away from completing the story mode. So, needless to say, a lot has happened to get to this point, and well, it would take forever to cover every single little detail of everything that has happened to get here. But if you are interested in seeing all those little details, I'll go ahead and add the playlist for the Mortal Kombat 1 playthrough in the corner of the screen now. But even though I've gone through a lot of stuff in the story mode, I do feel like something of a summary is kind of in order just to get you an idea of where we are in the story. And I'll try to keep this as short and simple as possible. Back in Mortal Kombat 11, the previous game, the story concluded with both Shang Tsung and Liu Kang fighting in the end, both of them trying to acquire the Time Titan Kronika's powers. That way they could control all of time and do with it as they see fit. And the gimmick back in Mortal Kombat 11's DLC story was that you could choose either Liu Kang or Shang Tsung, and they had 2 different endings. Well, it turns out that was not just a gimmick to make the replayability of that game a little bit better. It turns out both of those endings are actually canonically correct. There were 2 different scenarios where Shang Tsung and Liu Kang won, and that created 2 different timelines that were running concurrently. So the Titan version of Shang Tsung eventually figured that out and decided to go ahead and meddle in Liu Kang's timeline. He did that with the intention of eventually killing off the life in there and merging it into his own timeline. And throughout the entire plot of Mortal Kombat 1, we have been building up to that point. Liu Kang figured it out. And now, with his Time Titan powers, Liu Kang is looking into the possibility that maybe there were other timelines created as well, not just his and Shang Tsung's. He is doing this with the intention of trying to find allies that will help him to defeat Shang Tsung. Now, granted, a lot more has happened than that, but that's really all you need to know to see this story's conclusion and kind of get what we're shooting for. So, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the story mode and see whether or not Liu Kang can find allies in other timelines or if other timelines even exist besides these 2. Let's check it out.
Are you ready to begin the search?
Ready enough. May there be other timelines and titans to find.
Garrus? Liu Kang?
Easy, Kitana. You are among friends.
What's happened? Where am I?
A long way from home. In a different timeline, to be precise.
What? Are you also
A keeper of time? Yes.
both of us? How is that possible?
The battle for Kronika's hourglass ripped apart time's fabric. Where there once was one timeline, there are now many. Each new timeline represents a different possible outcome of that battle. In mine, I became Time's Keeper. In yours, it was you. In others, it could be Jade, Sindel, even Kano. The possibilities are endless.
If many timelines sprung from one, and we were both part of it, then you are my Liu Kang.
The same one who battled you in Shang Tsung's courtyard. Who fought at your side at the Colosseum. Who beamed with pride when you became Outworld's Khan.
Why does fate seem always to conspire against us? To deny us life's simple pleasures?
I don't know. Perhaps in one of the many timelines, they are ours.
I would like to think you brought me here for them. But I know you well enough to know better. What duty beckons us?
I will tell you. But first, we must gather more of our old friends.
Shang Tsung, Titan, wielding the power of the hourglass?
Yes, Kung Lao. He is a threat to all timelines. He is not yet aware of any beyond his and Liu Kang's.
For now, it is only a matter of time.
I had hoped my victory over Kronika would end the endless cycle of combat. Sadly, it begins anew.
We have no choice. We must stop Shang Tsung.
The millions in my White Lotus Society will aid us, if needed.
Thank you, my friends. He is here.
Liu Kang, you have found allies. Titan allies, in fact. How could I have been so blind? Of course our timelines aren't the only two.
Retreat to yours, Shang Tsung. Your attempt to merge timelines has failed.
Yes, your comrades proved most resourceful. Thus, I have resigned myself to simply destroying your timeline. Knowing that others exist to conquer makes that choice much more palatable. Once I destroy your hourglass, your timeline will cease to exist. I will take great pleasure in finishing you one last time.
Fight how I remember. I know what you'll do before you do it.
Likewise. Let's hope our advantage proves decisive.
And now, the Mortal Kombat multiverse of madness is continuing as we enter the very first match of this chapter. Now, in this fight, our Fire God Liu Kang is going to be going against an evil, alternate dimension version of Baraka. We are only 2 chapters away from this story's conclusion, and pretty much every single fight that we are going to be going into, well, it's going to be going against some sort of alternate dimension version of some other character. And pretty much every single alternate dimension character that we're going to be fighting against is going to be evil. Unless they were already evil, in which case they might be more or less evil than they were in our timeline. But yeah, that gimmick that we got introduced to back in Shang Tsung's chapter, well, we're going to be continuing that until the very end of the game. And that being said, this is kind of the point when I start wondering to myself, what kind of different lives do these characters live out in this other timeline with Shang Tsung? Like, for instance, for most of Mortal Kombat history, Baraka has been on the evil side of things. It wasn't until this game that he became a good guy. And also, he wasn't born as a Tarkatan as a species, he was infected with a Tarkat disease. But considering that was all a product of Liu Kang's imagination instead of Shang Tsung's, what is this Baraka like? Is he still just a Tarkatan as a species? Or did somehow there end up being a Tarkat disease in Shang Tsung's timeline as well?
How I've missed fighting by Kitana's side.
Let's rip the flesh from their bones. Are Tanya's of all timelines this evil? Mine is no better.
You should meet mine. She's a vast improvement.
I'd like that. Should we survive this battle?
I find it a little weird that they went out of their way to talk about how evil Tanya is in pretty much every other timeline besides this one for Liu Kang. But then we don't end up fighting Tanya, we end up fighting Limei. Now I get it, Tanya's already fought and lost a few times in this game, and I think Limei has only fought and lost once, twice? So it's probably just for balancing out purposes, but yeah, just a weird little detail. They went out of their way to talk about her, and then the fight had nothing to do with her except being a cameo that barely is in the fight at all. But anyway, enough about that. In the previous fight, I was talking about the alternate dimension characters a little bit. And something I did not mention were the costumes that these new alternate dimension versions of these characters are wearing. Now, a lot of these have been unlockable at some point or another through like the invasions mode or something like that, but some of them are not so readily available yet. And one that stands out is that Tanya costume. I think we got a Tarkatan version of it back in the previous invasions mode for Mileena, but I do not believe we have received that specific palette yet, which is a shame. It looks really cool.
Are you the best Shang Tsung can do?
It has begun.
Liu Kang!
We must stop them. If the hourglass is emptied, this timeline will be destroyed. Heal quickly, my friend. This battle ends with your timeline obliterated. Your final moments will be torture and pain. I do not fear your bravado. I have bested twins far more evil than you.
Oh, and speaking of costumes I don't think are available yet, I don't think the evil version of Kung Lao has been made available either, but I could be wrong about that. I definitely have not unlocked like every single costume in the game or anything like that, but yeah, I don't think that one's available. In any case, unfortunately, the old man version of Raiden ended up getting his ass kicked by Kung Lao and Liu Kang, and now we have to step in with Kitana to try and, well, defeat these guys and then defeat Shang Tsung. But even though he ended up losing the fight against these two, it is kind of nice to see the old man Raiden again. Now don't get me wrong, the young version of Raiden that we get in this game, I'm fine with that, that's cool. But it is still taking a little bit of time for me to get used to. Raiden as a god has been portrayed as looking like an old man, so that's kind of just what I'm used to. And we only really ever see that version of Raiden twice in this game, at least I don't think there are any more than that. The first time was when we fought against the corrupted Raiden in the Mileena chapter, and then now we also get the old man Raiden here, but the good version of him. But yeah, besides those two cases, we only see him a few more times throughout the entire story. It's very brief.
Go back to your timeline, brothers.
We have little time. The hourglass is failing.
Then let us end this, now.
Be good girls and kill them, won't you?
As you command, Shang Tsung.
Kitana and I will fight them. You save the hourglass.
Yes, Liu Kang.
Fool. You cannot save it.
I don't know which of them is worse. Both are cracked reflections of me.
They are abominations. Neither will survive this fight.
Oh, and to go ahead and continue my conversation that I've been breaking up throughout this entire chapter, we have yet another costume that I do not believe has been made available to us yet. That being the costume that the Kitana we are fighting against, the one that she is wearing right now. Now, most likely, they're probably going to try and save that for some sort of a Titan boss battle or some sort of an invasion boss in the invasions mode, but yeah, as of right now, to my knowledge, that one is not available yet. Now, I'm not exactly in love with that costume or anything, but it'd be cool to kind of have the variety. I definitely like the one that Tanya has a little bit more than this one. But yeah, Limei's costume we got from a Titan battle in invasions mode. Mileena's we ended up getting whenever she was the main Titan boss. Baraka's you could get from his Titan battle back in Season 1. And I'm pretty sure Natara's was also from whenever she was the invasions boss in her season, which was Season 2. So that kind of seems like the theme that has been happening lately. Just anyone that's an alternate dimension evil version of themselves, their costume seems to be made available whenever it is their turn to be the highlight of an invasion season. Like, there are plenty more examples, like Season 1 was Scorpion's season, and you got his evil costume whenever you beat him as the invasions boss. The same thing was true whenever you fought Sub-Zero in his season, which I think was Season 3. So it's a pretty safe bet at some point Kitana might either be the invasions boss or just some random Titan battle.
Once Shang Tsung is finished, you will be too.
isn't over, Liu Kang.
Thank you, everyone, for your aid. This battle was won together.
Shang Tsung is gone, but he's not defeated. He will be back to renew his campaign.
Not only against this timeline, but against all timelines.
Our choice is clear. We must take the fight to him. Destroy any power he has to make war against us.
Agreed. Shang Tsung is likely already gathering allies as I gathered you. We must best his efforts. Assemble an overwhelming army from across all timelines.
So now it is time for the most unhinged part of this entire story mode. You'll see exactly what I mean here momentarily. But yeah, there have been multiple endings for a lot of NetherRealm games, like Mortal Kombat 11 had multiple endings, and Justice 2 also had multiple endings. This game tries to take it in a bit of a different direction where you can choose literally any character on the roster to be your final chapter fighter. And low-key, I kind of feel like this is the key to making story mode a lot better. Like, the chapter system is fine, but we've been doing that for a pretty long time. I think it'd be a lot more interesting if you could actually choose who you want to be throughout certain parts of the story for longer periods of time. Or maybe have it where you can select a faction within the game, kind of like how you had Liu Kang's champions at the very early part of this game. Or you could probably go with like the Outworld royalty like Sindel, mileena, and Kitana. Or you can go with the Outworld military like generalshao or Reiko and, I suppose, Rain. Or you could go with something like the Link Way, where you get to play as Smoke, Sub-Zero, and Scorpion the entire time, or more of the time. The key thing is you get to play as who you want to play a lot more of the story mode than what we currently get, which is basically just 4 fights and you're done. And then like you play out the entire story based on those characters and getting to see how all the main events of the story are influenced by the team that you selected, stuff like that. This is just me kind of rambling here because I'm not really taking the time to script this out a whole lot, but I do feel like adding a lot more customization to the kind of story that you want to see unfold could end up making the story modes a lot more interesting. And I think it's kind of funny they kind of do that here in the final chapter, but if you had this kind of freedom throughout the entire story mode, I think that could be a lot of fun. Also, it could probably make the story mode chaotic as hell, so yeah, that would also be fun. Anyway, for my selection, I went ahead and thought to myself, you know what? We're going to go ahead and calculate who the overall worst fighter in the story mode was, and we were going to reward them. This is something I have done in every single Mortal Kombat game that I have played through so far. I calculate all of the losses and the wins at the very end, and I figure out which character lost the most and won the least. And they get crowned the worst character of the story mode. And I tallied it up, and the character that lost the most this time around and took the crown is generalshao. generalshao ended up losing more than anyone else with 5 losses in the story mode. I did not end up including the reskinned characters like how the Temple of Kataravala part had characters that were based on the Tara and Havoc's models but weren't actually them. So it didn't really seem appropriate for me to count them as losing those fights when it wasn't actually them fighting them. And the same thing was true whenever you're fighting like these super Tarkatans in Shang Tsung's lab. Those are just barakas, but it's not actually baraka. In fact, you're beating them with baraka, so counting those as losses for baraka didn't really feel genuine. And I also did not count any losses a character took as a cameo fighter. I don't think the cameo fighters really matter a whole lot whenever it's generally framed in the story as a 1 versus 1 scenario. And I do mean generally speaking. So yeah, the easiest thing was just go ahead and pick who was the main person fighting, and did they win, did they lose, and how many times. And yeah, Generalshao is our biggest loser, which means he's going to get rewarded here. We're going to give him some wins because having lost the most, he deserves a little bit of love. We're going to beat the game with Generalshao.
There is nowhere to run, Shang Tsung. Nowhere to hide. We have banded together to rid all timelines of your evil. The threat you pose to them ends today.
Such certainty, Liu Kang, that this battle will end in your favor.
It can end no other way. Because across all timelines, the arc of history bends toward justice.
Does it? In this timeline, it bends toward me. Behold, Liu Kang, the hell I unleash upon you.
Feel to be cancelled.
All right, here we go. This is when the madness of this story mode really reaches its peak. Previously, we were fighting alternate dimension versions of characters that we were familiar with. Evil versions of characters we had fought as or against in the story mode prior to that point. Now, in this chapter, we don't get that anymore. We get this little mashup of characters. Like right here, we get Ashra mashed in with Johnny Cage, and now we're fighting that. So yeah, get ready to enjoy a bunch of fights against random characters that were put into a blender, and well, we will just see what that blender produced.
Prepare to be crushed.
And next, the blender produces a Shaokhan Sub-Zero clone, which then reminds me, we are currently using Shaokhan, and this is supposed to be the good version of Shaokhan. Only thing is, I can't picture a good version of Shaokhan, just maybe a lesser evil version of Shaokhan. So we already fought the Dark Shao, went with Shang Tsung's chapter, so we'll go ahead and assume that was the most evil Shao that there is. Then we have Generalshao that we've been fighting throughout the entire story mode. We'll go ahead and put him somewhere in the middle.
Ready to die?
So we're just going to go ahead and say that this Generalshao that we are using is one of the least evil ones. But in my heart, I know he is still evil. So I guess for the most evil Shao to be the most evil, whenever he finally conquered all the realms, he wanted to destroy them and then rid all the realms and put them into some Armageddon scenario.
can't wait for you to rack off and die.
Now, I guess for you to be the least evil Shao, that means that you ruled all the realms, you conquered them, and suddenly you're just kind of a dictator for it all. So yeah, still probably pretty evil, but not nearly as evil as other versions of himself. Plus, considering how frequently Shang Tsung seems to kill Shao Kahn in pretty much every timeline, be it Deadly Alliance or Aftermath, or probably other examples too, I'm sure he was willing to listen to Liu Kang whenever he said he was fighting against this version of Shang Tsung.
You can't fight in blinding rain.
It is awesome to see that cutscene again where Janet Cage finally has a moment to shine alongside the other Johnny Cages against Goro, only to eventually get pulled into the crevice of doom by Goro. Yeah, she's been a cameo fighter for a little bit now. It's been fun to utilize in some fights, so it's kind of cool to revisit where she first kind of got some popularity. Anyway, back to General Shao and being willing to be in this fight against Shang Tsung. I can't imagine he was all that thrilled to hear that another Shang Tsung was wanting to invade other timelines. It's like, nope, we're gonna go ahead and put a stop to that right now. I'm not dying to another Shang Tsung. So yeah, if I had to guess the motivation and backstory of this General Shao, I assume he just came to this timeline to prevent this Shang Tsung from invading his.
Allow me.
Nicely done, Kitana.
You're welcome. Now hurry. There's no time to waste.
I will scorch your flesh. Action!
It is too bad for the combat kids, and specifically Takeda. It truly pains me to see my favorite of that group get killed off immediately and first by Kitana. Not all hope is lost for that character though, considering he is a DLC character that should be released in the next few months. We can hold out a little bit of hope that maybe he gets to redeem himself later on. At the very least, hopefully he is very fun to play.
I will relish killing you.
Alright, we are nearly to the end of this chapter, and next up we have the robotic version of Smoke, and I have not seen the Robo Smoke in a pretty long time. Like, I know he was DLC in Mortal Kombat 10, but I kind of stopped playing that game around the point that the Triborg was released, so... Yeah, basically the last time I saw him as a robot was back in Mortal Kombat Armageddon. It has been a while, and it's kind of nice to go back and look and see the character as I kind of remember him from back in the Mortal Kombat trilogy days. I guess this might be the only character we fight in the ascension of this pyramid that might not be a blendered version of multiple characters.
Assist me, Quan Chi. Shao. You are almost there.
This fight will be quick.
Wait a minute, wasn't this guy helping us out earlier whenever we were fighting against Goro? Well, I guess Ninja Mime has no alliances, and you can never truly trust a mime. On top of that, we managed to survive the test your might between the Mileena clones, which eventually got referenced again in the latest version of the Invasions mode. Actually, no, it was last season. See, it's kind of cool going back to this and seeing how they were first referenced in this game. But yeah, our climb of the pyramid is nearly complete, and this gigantic reference to Mortal Kombat Armageddon is almost over. But yeah, I mentioned this in the previous fight, and it's probably super obvious to anyone that's been playing through these games for a while. But yeah, this entire chapter is all just Mortal Kombat Armageddon rolled up really tightly into one small deliverable package that you can just play through in a few fights. Like, this entire chapter is just the reimagined version of that game's plot. Like, that was the entire plot of that game, but even if you had not played that, you got to see the aftermath of that Armageddon battle at the beginning cutscene of Mortal Kombat 9.
It's only a little further, Shao. Follow me. Your defenses have failed, Shang Tsung. This is over.
I do not think so.
Realize, sorcerer, that you've brought this on yourself. Avarice and ego have again proved your undoing. We have no choice but to eradicate you.
It is you who will be eradicated. You and your followers. And once you are dead, all timelines will be mine.
Your position is precarious. To survive, you must submit.
Yes. The question you must ask is, if Liu Kang couldn't finish us, how possibly could you?
Well, that's a really dumb question. I guess Shang Tsung just forgot that Shao Kahn was the final boss of multiple Mortal Kombat games. Like, he's making out like Shao has no chance at beating him, when in all reality, it seems entirely possible, if not very likely. But yeah, this was pretty much the great conclusion of references the video game, because man, they packed a bunch of stuff from the 3D era into like the last 3 chapters. I definitely have some thoughts on that, but I'll go ahead and save those for the credits. For the time being, let's just enjoy Shang Tsung getting the crap kicked out of him by Shao Kahn. After all, this man betrayed Shao pretty hard in Mortal Kombat 11's Aftermath DLC. It's time for a little bit of revenge.
And they called me the Chosen One.
Did you expect less from me? Now to finish them.
You have done more than enough. Please permit me to end this. May that be the last we see of you.
What prompted this?
Timeline. Without Shang Tsung to hold it together, it's falling apart. You must return to your timeline before this one collapses. Thank you for your aid, Shao. May we one day meet again.
I'm telling you, the locations we found here are money. I mean, look at this. Don't the rainbow colors on these mountains just scream Outworld?
I cannot believe you'll be telling our story about how we defeated Shang Tsung.
Well, the studio thinks it's fiction, not fact. But I don't care, as long as it's covering the budget.
I assume you'll be the star.
Nope, I'm behind the camera, writing and directing. Time to let someone younger and prettier take the lead. You know, I've written in parts for all of you, if you want them.
Us? On screen?
I mean, they're cameos. But like they say, there are no small parts.
Thank you, Johnny. But we must decline.
But Raiden?
The new initiates arrive tomorrow. We must return to the Wuxi to begin their instruction.
Of course. You are right.
What about you, Takahashi? I need a blind swordsman, and no actor can do what you do.
I would love to. But my work to revive the Tyra is starting to pay off. I can't let up now.
Well, I know better than to ask you. Your plate is always full.
Indeed, Johnny Cage. Which is why I must now depart.
Off to Outworld? To advise the Empress?
Between her father and her sister, Mileena is receiving plenty of good advice. And with the sorcerers and the general imprisoned, there are few threats to her rule.
Is something wrong, then?
I am simply shoring up our defenses. As you know, Bi-Han and his Lin Kuei have abandoned their roles as Earthrealm's guardians. His brother, Kuai Liang, has agreed to build a new clan, the Shirai Ryu, to take its place. I must go aid his efforts.
Is there anything we can do?
Not yet, but I will call upon all of you when the time comes. Madame Bo, once again you have served an excellent meal.
That's kind of you to say.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. And thank you, all of you. You have served well as Earthrealm's champions.
No, Liu Kang. Thank you. Joining up with you really has changed the arcs of our lives.
I am glad.
All right, gentlemen. If you're finished, there's only one thing left to do. Which one of you gets the bad news?
Not me. I'm still 3 mil in the hole on Sento. How, thick's your wallet, Takahashi?
Thick enough. But seems to me our hosts are on the hook. They did invite us.
You think we have money? The Shaolin live modestly.
Easy, Kung Lao. You're teasing.
Don't worry, Father. I've got this covered. Besides, my business manager tells me I can write this whole thing off.
The realms are in safe hands.
All right, and that is mostly the story mode of Mortal Kombat 1. And it is a story mode that I've really, really enjoyed. Both of them. By which I mean the first 80% of story mode and the last 2.5 chapters of, well, the craziness that it ended with. And we'll go ahead and call it 3 chapters. And we'll go ahead and call it 3.5 chapters. All 3.5 of which kind of just left me feeling like I had started playing an entirely different story. Granted, it was not a bad story, it was just completely different than what I had been playing all up to that point, so it definitely stands out. And I would say that's kind of my only real problem with the story mode. It is just everything up to about halfway through Mileena's chapter is 100% the story mode of Mortal Kombat 1, and it's really good. It is a good jumping on point for anyone who is not all that familiar with Mortal Kombat. But then every chapter after that, the last few that we get, it stops being Mortal Kombat 1 story mode and starts becoming Mortal Kombat 1 references the video game. Because it is at that point that it just starts beating you over the head over and over again with 3D era Mortal Kombat references, which, for as long as I have played this franchise, that was really fun to me. But it was definitely kind of whiplash for the story mode because it was tonally completely different than what had been happening prior to that moment.
Look at him, clinging to life. Even now he struggles.
Everyone who fought today did so fiercely.
Had I not been here for it, I would have thought it impossible. Warriors from across timelines, clashing in combat. The blood, the death, the chaos.
Yes, Lord Havoc. It's unfortunate it all ended so fast.
The next time, it won't.
All right, and with that cutscene, we have the promise of even more chaos to come. Pretty much a guarantee that all the craziness we ended the game with is going to be coming back to us a little bit later. So yeah, the first 12-ish chapters of the game are really good, and the final chapters are good as well, just kind of an odd mix. So yeah, definitely still really enjoyable. Like, I really liked all the chaos at the very end, but I definitely felt myself wondering what happened to the grounded story that we were working with just a few chapters ago. I don't know, it's just kind of an odd choice. It's one I had fun with, but definitely odd. So yeah, at the very beginning of the story mode and throughout pretty much the entirety of the story mode in almost every chapter, there were new stories being told, there were characters being reimagined, and just overall, for the most part, it seemed like we were avoiding repeating old plot lines for the most part. Now, there were still some franchise staples that we've become accustomed to, like there was a tournament. We also at one point did eventually have Scorpion versus Sub-Zero. Just all the things we know and love that we pretty much just expect to be in every single Mortal Kombat game. Well, they were there, but in completely different ways than what we would probably be seeing in most of the other stuff from the old timeline. But yeah, things were just a little bit different but familiar. Like with the tournament I referenced before, rather than the fate of all the realms being at hand with this tournament, there was really not much of a stake in it other than just, pride, I guess, for whatever side ended up winning the tournament. So it was a lot less risky than the previous timelines. Yeah, like I mentioned before, Mileena's chapter happens and that original story kind of just ends. And we get a lot of moments that are intended to make you go like, oh yeah, I remember that thing that they did from like forever ago. It's a lot like that. And also, kind of like I mentioned in a previous episode, that's fine for me because, I've played like pretty much every single Mortal Kombat game. But for the most part, this game had done a really good job of not making it all that important for you to have played a previous Mortal Kombat game. This could kind of offer up a jumping on point to the franchise. So it was kind of friendly to people who were not too used to Mortal Kombat. But then that goes completely out the window, and unless you actually played those games from, geez, when did Deadly Alliance come out? It had to be the early 2000s, so like 20 years ago. You're probably not going to get all the inside references that they were throwing out there. And man, there were a bunch of those references. Like, of course, we had the Deadly Alliance reference with Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, teaming up and then trying to resurrect an undead or enchanted army. Like, that was the whole plot of the Deadly Alliance game back in the day, and we got it here. Then we end up finding out that Damashi was, the one that was guiding them throughout their entire journey. Damashi being a reference to, well, Damashi back in Mortal Kombat Deception, who ended up actually being the Dragon King Onaga. But he was using the Damashi spirit thing as an illusion to mislead Shujinko. In this case, instead of getting Onaga, we got Titan Shang Tsung just recycling the same thing. And then, of course, we started getting a bunch of old character references, like, characters pulled from across the new Mortal Kombat multiverse, like Dark Raiden or Evil Sindel from Mortal Kombat 9. They even went as far as to reference characters that aren't even in this story mode. Like at one point, they referenced that possibly Kano could have defeated Kronika in some alternate reality, and then he becomes the Keeper of Time. So yeah, they're referencing characters that aren't there, and they go even deeper with the references to other things that aren't in this game, because that's actually a reference to the Snowblind animated movie from Mortal Kombat, because that's exactly what happened. Kano ended up defeating Kronika, and then he made his own timeline, which is basically Mortal Kombat Mad Max Fury Road. Which might sound like that's a complaint, but no, that movie was actually kind of awesome. Those are two franchises I did not know that I wanted combined together until I watched it, and you know what? I am perfectly fine with those two being combined. And then at the very end of the game, we get the Pyramid of Argus, and then the Battle of Armageddon again. Just, instead of going up the pyramid to battle against Blaze to get godlike power, or running up the pyramid to stop Titan Shang Tsung, who wants to conquer all the realms, so he's kind of going to be getting godlike power, except he already has godlike power, but I guess he just wants to be a conqueror. We'll go with that. But yeah, that pretty much sums up the story in a nutshell. Like I said, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's just kind of a odd shift that we got about 12 chapters into the game. And I do like what they did with the characters that they reimagined in this game. Like, I'm a really big fan of what they did with Baraka and Reptile. Even characters that weren't changed all that much, like Ashra, they actually at least got built upon, that basic template for that character. So you're still getting a little bit more than you did back in the day. And then also characters that are kind of similar to the way they used to be, but just tweaked slightly, like mileena. I feel like it did wonders for their character, and that's mostly because they just got, some time to shine in their own chapter. So yeah, that's the one thing I would definitely compliment this story mode on specifically, is it finally gave time to some characters that have been neglected for a very, very long time. And I think that makes the story a lot better overall, at least for me. And this is one of those cases where I kind of almost wish I was new to the franchise, just so I can give like a new person's perspective to everything that happened, because I'm not that. I played this game for a very long time. So a lot of the things I liked about the story mode was just that characters I've seen kind of get the short end of the stick for pretty much everything in every other story mode, where they're just losing all the time. Well, suddenly those characters are getting some opportunities to finally win and influence the plot in very big ways. And I think that just made the story mode a lot better for me personally. So where does that make this game's story mode place among all the other story modes for the games I have played for Mortal Kombat so far? Honestly, because of the feeling I have about how this game ends, where the majority of the game feels one way and the last few chapters feel completely different, to the point where they don't really feel like they belong together, well, that kind of makes this story really hard to rank in comparison to the other Mortal Kombat games. It might be a little bit easier for me to give a definitive answer to that once the DLC is out, and it feels like the story mode, is fleshed out even more. But similar to what I said whenever I played through Mortal Kombat 11, I really wanted this story mode to be able to kind of stand on its own without having DLC consideration. And like I said at the very end of that playthrough as well, I feel like DLC should just be a bonus or a separate story. I shouldn't need a DLC to complete a story, because then it feels like I wasn't sold something that was completed. It makes me feel like I'm being forced to purchase something twice just so I actually get the full experience that I should have gotten the first time around. Now, I do kind of feel like this story was told. But like you saw at the very end, there was a cutscene that hinted at what was to come next. That's not a new thing, though. That's happened before plenty of times. Like Mortal Kombat 10 did that. It hinted at corrupted Raiden being a big part of what was going to come next in the next game, along with Liu Kang and Kitana in their Revenant forms, leading the armies of Netherrealm. So we kind of knew that was going to be part of the plot for the next game. So yeah, that end cutscene doesn't make this feel incomplete or anything. That just hints at what's next. Considering we did defeat the big bad guy at the very end, even though it was kind of in a weird and abrupt kind of way, I do feel like this story is, for the most part, complete. Although I do feel like there probably should have been a little bit more time to flush out the changing of the threat at the very end. Oddly enough, if I had to rank it right now as it is without any sort of DLC consideration, which the reason I emphasize that is because I ranked Mortal Kombat a lot higher than I thought I would, Mortal Kombat 11, after I played the DLC Aftermath, because that really did just make that story mode so much better. But this game doesn't get that luxury, so without the DLC consideration, yeah, I think I still like it a little bit more than 11. I thought that it was going to come in just behind it, but the more I've thought about it, I still think Mortal Kombat 1 story mode is just a little bit better. And it's largely because of the exact same thing I said before. More characters got to shine in this game than I feel like ever had the opportunity to do so previously. That's one of the reasons why Mortal Kombat 11's Aftermath DLC was so redeeming in my eyes, because you had characters getting chapters that had never gotten them before, like Shiva, Shao Kahn, Sindel, Fujin. And I think that really helped to enhance the story and kind of change things up. It wasn't just the same characters winning over and over again, which is what I felt like the base story mode for Mortal Kombat 11 was. It was just more of the usual. And unlike with Mortal Kombat 11, where that only really seemed to happen in the DLC, this one was doing it throughout the entire base story mode, so I feel a little bit better about it and its overall ranking in comparison to the other story modes. I actually think that Mortal Kombat 1 has the best story mode out of the ones that I've played so far for Mortal Kombat. Not by a huge margin, because Mortal Kombat 11 plus the Aftermath DLC is like right behind it. It's really close. In fact, if you ask me this question on another day, I might feel differently. But for right now, I'd say Mortal Kombat 1 has the best story mode. Now, how do I feel about the game overall? Well, that's an interesting question too. Because when this game first came out, I loved it. I really liked it. And then it seemed like we were going to be getting a lot more stuff down the road that would make the game even better. Like, at first, the invasions mode, I was really into it. And the idea that we'd be getting new invasion bosses and stories every single season, that was a cool concept. It seemed like we were going to get a lot of replayability because of that. The problem is, and I get into this way more in my invasions playthrough, which will also be released after the story mode's done. So look forward to those videos soon. They never really improved upon it in the ways I was hoping, and it kind of just got repetitive and very grindy. As far as the online modes go, they're fine. They're what you would expect. I'm sure if I were like a really competitive player doing like tournaments and stuff, my opinion of it might be a little bit different, but I'm a casual player. So what it is right now, I'm perfectly fine with. I think the only time I ever had an issue with the online modes for Mortal Kombat 1 was like right after Quan Chi released, and it just broke everything. And it took them a little bit longer to fix that than I would have liked, but it's fixed as of the time I'm voicing this over, so I mean, I'm good with it. All the DLC characters have been very fun to play. I have no complaints there. But yeah, around the time everything started breaking with Quan Chi, my opinion became a lot more negative about the game. And that wasn't just me. I feel like a lot of people had negative opinions of the game around that time. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't release my playthrough immediately after the game released. I'm also glad that I didn't release my playthrough right after the Quan Chi incident, because I felt like I was probably very sour on the game, more so than it probably deserved, even though criticism certainly was deserved there. But at this point, I mean, things kind of got fixed. And while I think there's certainly more that could have been done with this game, I put a lot of time into it. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I like the game. And I guess just a little clarity on how I do things. I have no intention of ever doing videos like this for a video game that I do not like. So even if I don't go out of my way to say it at times, and even if you see me criticizing the game that I'm playing, if I end up putting videos out for a video game, it's because I like that game. Now, all because I like a game doesn't mean it's above criticism, but I do like the game. I certainly wouldn't be making videos for one that I didn't like, because why would I spend hours upon hours playing something and then editing videos for something that I absolutely hated? So I felt like just throwing that out there, because even though I am criticizing some aspects of this game, I like it. And it's safe to assume if you see me playing a game and then making videos for it in the future, even if I don't say it, I do enjoy that game as well. If you want to hear more about my opinions on the other modes for Mortal Kombat, I mean, you can check out my online gameplay. It's all under the Mortal Kombat Online playlist. You'll definitely see me give opinions on actual matchups and stuff like that there. As far as the invasions mode goes, like I said, those videos are coming out soon, and I give my very honest opinions on that mode, because it's not the greatest. So yeah, if you were interested in those opinions or seeing what the invasion modes were like in past seasons, because they don't stick around after a season changes, just know that those are right around the corner. So alright, what else is there to cover about this game? Well, you get the classic arcade tower back where every character has their own ending like always, nothing new there. The other towers, the towers of time, stuff like that, it's in this game. It's in the invasions mode, and one of the environments, they have those towers again. So they're back, but they're kind of different. It's not something I care about all that much, because quite frankly, I never really cared about the towers, because they always just felt like a series of really meaningless fights over and over and over again. And, I don't really just want to be infinitely fighting against the computer like that with no real narrative reason to it. So pretty much the only time I do those in this game is whenever I have to level up a character to unlock something like new finishers or stuff like that. This Mortal Kombat was the very first one in a really long time that did not have a crypt mode, which is an interesting choice because I'd say Mortal Kombat 11 had by far the most intricate and interesting crypt mode out of the entire franchise. It was really cool. The thing is, I don't miss it that much. I wish something had actually replaced it, mind you, but I'm not like a big crypt guy. In my opinion, it doesn't take that long to explore them. And once you have explored it fully, there's no reason to really revisit it for the most part, except whenever you need to go unlock something for somebody. And my big problem with the crypt is it doesn't tell you what you're unlocking. You're just unlocking a bunch of different chests and hoping that you get something relevant to the character that you want to play. And that can get a little bit annoying sometimes. And I have to go look up some videos on YouTube, figure out where all the crap is for the character I want. And it's just a task. I think they actually did kind of the right thing where you unlock things for your character based on a level up system, which is based on how much you play as that character. So at least you are always progressing towards getting something relevant to who you want to play. Mind you, it took them forever to work out the experience system for your characters, though. Like, geez, the first 3 seasons, I think, it was a snail's pace. Then season 4 happened, and then you're just leveling up your characters super, super fast, and well, I say super fast, but I think I may have been also just conditioned to be used to how slow it used to be, so super fast may not actually be super fast, but I'm okay with where it is now. And yet, I would have liked to have seen something replace the crypt, but I don't really think there's much replayability to the crypts because once you've gotten what you want, there's not really a reason to return. So it would have been cool to see something replace it, but I don't miss it that much. Yeah, no, I think that's about it. Like, I could comment on plenty of other things if I really wanted to dig into it, like, the in game purchases that were absolutely ridiculously high priced for a large portion of this game's life so far. I think those eventually got adjusted, but quite frankly, I don't do the in-game purchases. If I can't just pay for something with currency earned in the game, I'm not doing that. Like I never really believed in the idea of having to pay a bunch of extra money for something in a game that I already paid full price for. Especially with this game that I end up getting on release and also paid for, like, the DLC characters for. It's like, how much crap do you want me to pay for a game that I should already be, getting everything for based on how much I've already paid for it? So, yeah, I could definitely comment on stuff like that more, but I'm not really gonna get into it. I'll just focus on, like, the story mode, the invasions mode, and the online mode, the crap I actually do play on this game, which overall, like I said earlier, equals out to a game that I have enjoyed quite a bit, although I am looking forward to moving away from Mortal Kombat because, man, it did take me a while to get through the entire franchise of these story modes from the reboot Mortal Kombat 9 all the way to now. And while it has been fun, I could use a little bit of a break from the fighting games. What will I do next? I'm not sure yet, really. But I still have a few things for Mortal Kombat scheduled to be released in the meantime, so we will see. Whenever I know what I'm going to do next, I'll be sure to talk about it. But yeah, that is going to be it for Mortal Kombat 1. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've enjoyed the videos I've done for it. I'll still have the Fatal Friday finisher videos releasing on a weekly basis for the foreseeable future, but for now, take care and I will see you next time.